Hey there, guys. This is Cole. Welcome back to another Halloween horror movie review for the season of October. This is episode 13, and for episode 13 of the Halloween horror movie reviews, I'm going to be reviewing the 2019 killer alligator movie Crawl, directed by Alexandre Aja. So what is the plot synopsis? So what is the plot to the 2019 movie Crawl? Well, the plot of the movie is as follows. As a Category 5 hurricane tears through Florida, Haley Keller rushes to find her father, who is injured and trapped in the crawl space of their home. With the storm intensifying and water levels rising, the pair face an even bigger threat lurking below the surface. Alligators. So, yeah. So, how was this movie received when it came out? Well, when this movie was released on July 12, 2019 in the US, it received positive reviews from critics and audiences and was a big success at the box office, making $91.7 million worldwide on a $13.5 million budget. And when the movie received positive reviews from critics and audiences, the movie was praised for its atmosphere and the performances by the cast and the overall story, which I think that all of that does work pretty well in this movie. And this movie was produced by Sam Raimi, who, as we all know, he's the guy who directed the first 3 Evil Dead movies and the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies from the 2000s. And this movie was directed by Alexandre Aja, who, prior to this, had directed The Hills Have Eyes 2006 remake. And The Hills Have Eyes from 2006 is a great horror movie remake. Not only is it a remake that improves upon the original, but The Hills Have Eyes from 2006 is one of my favorite horror movies of all time. And before this movie came out, in 2019, I saw The Hills Have Eyes remake. So when I heard that the director of that movie was doing this, it piqued my curiosity and my interest. But I didn't get the chance to see it in theaters. I did watch it in 2019 when it came out on DVD, but, me and my dad rented it at Redbox, and I overall liked the movie, and watching it again within 6 years later, I still like this movie. And I got this on DVD last Christmas so I could rewatch this at some point, and yeah, I'm glad I got this because I rather enjoyed this movie. So, without further ado, let's get into the review. So, the movie starts off where we are introduced to our main character, Haley Keller, who she basically practices on the swimming team, and, an instructor is giving people instructions, and, they're basically racing down the pool in the large gym, and then Haley Keller manages to beat a few people in a race, but then she goes to her locker so she can dry off and stuff like that. But she then sees the news that there's a Category 5 hurricane in Florida, which is right where her dad is. So she decides to go rescue her dad and stuff like that. And everything is going all fine and dandy until the main character, Haley, she goes into the crawl space with her to basically, help her dad out because her dad's passed out and stuff like that. But then alligators arrive, and these alligators are absolutely vicious in this movie. And I do think this movie does have some rather good tension to it. And I think that as a director, that's what Alexandre Aja usually does a good job at. Now, when it comes to Alexandre Aja as a director, I like the 2003 French horror film. I like the movie High Tension, but I'm not a big fan of the twist ending. The Hills Have Eyes 2006 remake, I absolutely love that movie. I think that's one of the best horror movies of all time, and a modern day classic if you ask me. Mirrors with Kiefer Sutherland, I like the movie for what it is despite its flaws. Piranha 3D from 2010, I didn't hate the movie, but I didn't really care for that movie much. I thought that movie was pretty mediocre, and in my opinion, it did start Alexandre Aja's decline as a director. Horns with Daniel Radcliffe, don't get me wrong, I I like Daniel Radcliffe as an actor, but that movie wasn't that great. I mean, it was slightly better than Piranha 3D, but still, eh. But this, I thought, was rather good. This got Alexandre Aja's career back on track, and I know a lot of people did not like it. I'm even one of the few people who did not mind that horror movie he directed last year called Never Let Go, starring Halle Berry, which I like that movie. Maybe one of these days down the road, I'll review that movie. But anyways, getting back to the review, like I said, the main character, Haley Keller, she goes into the crawl space. She's with her dad, who's basically passed out. And Haley Keller, she basically drags her dad onto, like, you know, on the ground by the crawl space, but basically drags him underneath these pipes and stuff like that, and she's basically trying to call for help, but with a phone and stuff like that, but she finds out that there's alligators right in the water next to them, and again, this movie does have some rather good tension, like, for instance, the whole scene where the main character, Haley, is trying to crawl away from an alligator, and then an alligator just viciously bites her on the foot and is, like, slamming her into the wall side to side. Again, that's a rather well done, intense scene in the movie, and again, I think Alexandre Aja does a rather good job with that scene, with how he nails the tension. And while this is going on, the hurricane is basically flooding the crawl space, and so they basically have to get out and stuff like that. One of my favorite scenes in this movie is when the main character, Haley, one of my favorite scenes in the movie is when the main character, Haley, she is trying to get the attention of some people that are not far away from her, like maybe 200, 300 feet away, but they're basically at a gas station during the hurricane and stuff like that. But to get their attention, there's like a window where you can see light out of it. So Haley is basically using a flashlight, moving it back and forth through the holes that, you know, that way people can see it. And this one guy who's with another guy at the gas station does notice that there's a light, and the person turns around, but it's too late because that person's partner is viciously attacked by an alligator, and the little motorboat they're on basically tips over, and again, it is a rather tension-filled scene. And then you know, throughout the course of the movie, they're trying to do everything they can. There's a part in the movie where the main character, Haley Keller, is trapped. You know, like I said, her and her dad are trapped in the crawl space, and it's the water's starting to flood in and stuff like that, but two police officers managed to get inside the house on basically a police boat, and one of them goes inside the house to basically try to find Haley and her dad, Dave Keller, and while this is going on, he hears the dog barking because, you know, Haley's dad has a pet dog, and then this police officer, who's basically wearing a yellow, you know, for safety reasons type of suit, he basically goes inside, and during this scene, he basically opens up the crawl space, and one of the other police officers asks him what's going on, and he says there's people trapped down here that need to get out. But before the guy can finish his sentence, an alligator comes up and attacks him in a rather well done, again, another rather well done tension-filled scene. Another thing I think works about this movie is I think the movie does have a rather good lead character. I honestly thought that Haley Keller, played by Kaya Scodelario, I thought that she was a great lead character, and I think that the actress who played her did a rather good job in this movie. You definitely bought the fact that she was a daughter trying to help her dad get out of this situation, and you were rooting for her to survive. And then the whole scene where water is flooding up the crawl space, and Haley basically swims out of the crawl space through a pipe, but an alligator notices her, so she swims onto land by her house quickly and safely, and she's basically trying to help her dad because, see, the whole reason, and they're underneath this attic door, this kind of like a pull-up door that you would see on an attic, but the only difference is it goes to a crawl space. However, Haley is not able to open it because there's a heavy dresser on top of it. So Haley decides to swim out of the crawl space through a tube, gets back to safety, and so she basically breaks some floorboards open and pulls her dad out the water, who the dad passes out, and she's like, no, don't die on me, you know, like she's like, no, like she's giving him CPR, she's trying to get him up, she's like, no, don't die on me. But then eventually the dad does wake up coughing with water in his mouth because, you know, because he passed out, and she's happy that her dad is alive. But anyways, in the movie, once again, her and her dad are trying to escape, like they do get a motorboat that was by the gas station where the alligators attacked the people there earlier, and so they're basically on the boat. Haley and her dad are on the boat with their dog, but they can't really go anywhere, and a huge hurricane just sweeps the water away, and it pushes the boat right back into the house that they were just in, and they basically have to get up the stairs to safety and stuff like that. And the whole scene where the dog is swimming and gets away from an alligator, and the dad is basically holding a flare and is basically ordering the dog upstairs, which the dog does go upstairs. The dad then is attacked by the alligator viciously on the arm, and Haley has to go help her dad get up the stairs and stuff like that. And then we get closer to the end of the movie where Haley is basically inside of the house, and she's basically in the shower, but it's one of those showers that has two glass doors. But I like the part when she tricks the alligators, like she opens up the glass door and she says, hey, I'm right here, and then the alligator's about to get her, but she basically climbs on top of the shower and just barely manages to escape. And then she closes the door shut, the glass door shut, and swims out. And then the movie ends where Haley and her dad get on top of the house, and then a police helicopter comes to rescue them. So yeah, at the end of the day, I thought that this was a pretty good movie. I guess if I really only have two little nitpicks, and they're very minor, the CG effects, they are good for the most part, but there is some parts where I think they could have been done a little better. And the whole part where, and again, it is a good ending, but I do think it is kind of a little too abrupt. Like for instance, like, I would have liked a finale, like, to me, it would have been satisfying if there was, like, a finale where, like, the alligator just exploded open, like in Jaws. Like, that would have been epic. But another part I forgot to mention is I do like the whole scene where Haley, she's being attacked by the alligator, rolled in the water. Then she basically grabs the flare and burns the alligator's side. And then like I said, the movie ends where Haley and her dad manage to get on top of the house, and a helicopter comes to rescue them. So yeah, at the end of the day, I thought that this was a rather good movie. One of the better modern day creature feature movies. And so yeah, on a scale of 1 to 10, I am going to give Crawl an 8 out of 10. So there you go, guys. That wraps up my review for Crawl. And next up, I will be covering The Blob from 1988, which is a movie that I really like. But until then, guys, we'll catch you guys for the next one. Later.